Hello everyone, it's Heather, and in today's video I'm going to be answering some of your travel questions that you submitted to me on YouTube or Facebook, okay? So a while back I put out a request for people to send in questions and I got a lot of great questions. Thank you so much for submitting all of those. And I actually have enough that I'm going to divide them into two separate videos. So in this video, I'm going to be answering travel related questions. In the other video that I'm going to do, which I still at this point am waiting to get a few more questions to make that a little bit longer, I'm going to be answering other questions like more personal questions or other questions that were not related to travel. So that one will be coming in the future. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that one, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, ding the notification bell so you get a notification. And otherwise, if you're interested in hearing my answers to these travel questions that were submitted, here we go. I have basically 10 questions here that I'm going to go through. A lot of them are related to our recent cruise to Alaska, but some of them are just general. So there's a good mix in here. So stay tuned. Okay. Number one, do I know? This was a Disney Cruise Line question. And the person who submitted this question had only been on Disney Dream and Disney Wish, neither of which I have been on, okay? I, at this point, have only been on Disney Wonder and Disney Magic. I've been on both of them multiple times, but I have not been on the Dream, the Fantasy, or the Wish yet. So those are very high on my list of ships I want to go on as soon as possible. But I was able to research this a little bit to give her an answer to her question because I was pretty sure I knew the answer, but I wanted to make sure. So I did research it to back myself up. But she wanted to know if they have the complimentary pastries in Cove Cafe on each of the different Disney ships. Okay, here's the deal. There are complimentary pastries in Cove Cafe. Cove Cafe is an adults-only little coffee shop kind of thing. And there's one on each of the Disney Cruise Line ships so far. The ones on Disney Wonder and Disney Magic are almost identical, and the ones on Disney Dream and Disney Fantasy are almost identical. The one on Disney Wish is a little bit different. And you can actually get the specialty coffees on Disney Wish in a bunch of different locations on the Wish. Now here's something important to note. Specialty coffees on all Disney Cruise Line ships are an extra charge. Okay, you can get like regular coffee, like with dinner and stuff like that, or even at the little beverage stations up on the, the top deck, the Lido deck, if you will, where the other stuff is. Soda is complimentary on all Disney Cruise Line ships. Juices, all sorts of beverages like that are all complimentary on Disney Cruise Line, which is, I think, a big advantage of it over most other cruise lines. You don't have to have a soda package on Disney Cruise Lines. They don't even have that. But alcohol and specialty coffees are really the only drinks on Disney Cruise Line that you have to pay extra for. So if you want to get a specialty coffee in Cove Cafe, you have to pay for that. But on Disney Wonder, Disney Magic, Disney Dream, and Disney Fantasy, they have a pastry case in the Cove Cafe with little pastries. Those are free. Those are complimentary, and you can go in there anytime and say, can I have a scone, or can I have there's little bars with cranberry in them that I like and stuff like that, and they will just give it to you. So you can go into the Cove Cafe at any time on those 4 ships and get any of those pastries you want for free, okay? Disney Wish, Cove Cafe does not have the pastry case at all. So it's not, she wasn't sure, like, was it extra or something? No, they don't even have it. I don't know why. And I'm going to assume that on Disney Treasure, when they finish that ship, that one's probably not going to have it either because it's kind of the sister ship to the Wish. So I don't know why, but for some reason they got rid of the pastry case in Cove Cafe on the Disney Wish, and they don't have the pastries in there at all. Bummer. But on Magic Wonder, Dream, and Fantasy, there is a complimentary pastry case in Cove Cafe, and you can get those pastries for free anytime the Cove Cafe is open. But the specialty coffees you do have to pay for. Okay, number 2. How have our travel plans changed with my new injury? Okay, if you haven't been following along, make sure you go back and check out my recent videos on my latest physical problems. Okay, it turned out, boy, it was quite an ordeal trying to figure out what was wrong. And I've been in a lot of pain, and it's been quite a whole big drama. So you can go back and watch the videos about that. The good news is it didn't turn out to be what my doctor thought it was and what we were really worried it was, which was a fractured pelvis. If I had a fractured pelvis, I was really pretty sure I would not be doing any more traveling for a pretty considerably long time. I had seen everything from 4 weeks to 12 months to recover from a fractured pelvis, and that really freaked me out. It is not a fractured pelvis. I had an MRI, and it turned out that I have a herniated disc. So it's a completely different way to treat it, and I can walk if I can tolerate the pain, and I don't need crutches. I don't even need the wheelchair, although at this point when I'm making this video, I am still using it just because it's so painful to walk. It's very treatable. People get herniated discs in their spine all the time. Whereas if I had a fractured pelvis, I was going to have to stay completely off my left leg for God knows how long. So it's different. So it's much more likely that we'll be able to travel sooner than I thought I would be able to with a fractured pelvis. So that's the good news. He wanted to know how our remaining travel in 2023 was affected by this injury. Well, it's not really an injury at this point. We thought it was an injury, but by this problem. Here's the thing. We didn't have any other travel booked or planned for the rest of 2023. And I guess at the time I asked for these questions to be submitted, the video, I think it's the last vlog in our Alaska series, I'm not sure quite when these videos are going to go up in relation to each other, had not gone up yet. And in that video, I say we don't have any other travel booked for 2023. And I talked about how it was making me very sad. But that video hadn't gone up yet when I asked for these questions, so he didn't know that. But at this point, we don't have any travel booked for 2020, the rest of the year, and I'm very bummed about this. And more so than anything going on with my physical condition, the real problem we're having is twofold. One is money. Alaska just bankrupted me, like not completely, but I mean, it was so expensive and I have nothing left. I have no money left to use for travel at this point. And yeah, it's going to take me some time to get back to a point where I have enough money. And then the second problem is my kids' school schedules. It's really tricky. All three of my kids have totally different schedules in school. They have different breaks. It's just a mess. And Ben's going back to school in person in 4 weeks from the time I'm filming this video. And so we are very bummed, me, Ben, and Megan, that we have not gotten to take a trip, the three of us together, this summer. Alaska was technically not summer. We took that cruise in May. So we have not gotten to do anything fun together this summer at all, other than go to the movies. And so we're really bummed about that. It's 3 weeks till my birthday at the time I'm filming this. I really want to go somewhere and do something for my birthday, but I just don't have the funds. So I really don't know what we're going to do for the rest of 2023. And I am worried about that for the channel because I need content. And also I don't like to go this long without traveling. We do have some things tentatively planned for 2024. I have one thing booked and then some other stuff I need to get booked. But again, I don't even have money for deposits right now. The long and short of it is, it didn't affect our travel plans for the rest of 2023 because I didn't have any. The only thing that we had booked that I canceled a while ago was to go on that cruise in December with my mom. And I talked about that in this video, that we had to cancel that a while back because it conflicted with the kids' school. They couldn't go. So I did not get my money back on that, but it was only a $100 per person deposit. And so I think I only lost like $300-400. Yeah. So it wasn't the end of the world. Okay, number 3. Where does Holland America rank on my list of cruise lines that I've taken now that I've taken Holland America? Okay, this is a very easy one. And I think I actually answer this also in another video that either went up or is coming up. And that is, it's third, okay? I've now been on 3 cruise lines. The majority of my cruises have been on Royal Caribbean and Disney Cruise Line, and then I've had this one cruise now on Holland America. We liked Holland America fine, but it definitely is in third place for those 3. So I would rank them very easily Disney Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean, Holland America. That's how I rank those three. So, but different people with different personalities and a different taste might rank them differently. But that's what it is for me. Okay, number 4. How was Alaska different than you expected it to be? This is a really good question. Okay, one thing I have to say right away is Alaska is massive, okay? I have a friend right now who's traveling with her family in the main part of Alaska, you know, the whole big part of Alaska. And they're having a very different experience than what we had going on a cruise on the Inside Passage. The Inside Passage, if you look at a map of Alaska, is a very small portion of Alaska, and it's really kind of next to Canada. So it's really kind of, it almost feels like it should be part of Canada, but anyway, those parts of Alaska, there's so much to Alaska. I mean, it's hard to like lump it all together is what I'm saying. But there were a couple things that in the part that we went to that I did notice were a little different than I was expecting. One thing was 2 of the towns that we went to, Juneau, which is the state capital, and Sitka, really threw me. Those were the first 2 towns we saw, and they were nothing like what I was expecting. And what I mean is, all the pictures I'd seen from people taking Alaska cruises and stuff were these really quaint, historic, neat, kind of touristy towns. Okay, well, I'll tell you where those are. That's Ketchikan, which we went to later, which is that way, in the port area at least. And then Skagway, which we did not go to on this cruise. And I think the reason we did not go to is because of the issues they've been having with the rock slides and the rocks falling on the dock. So we didn't go to Skagway, and Ketchikan was the last port we went to. Ketchikan was my favorite port. I didn't like Juneau and Sitka that much. And the reason I didn't like them that much is because they were so ordinary. They weren't what I was expecting at all. They were just literally a regular town that you'd go to anywhere. And they're not very big towns, so it was like going to some small town in any state in the United States. And they were just kind of blah. You know, I just wasn't expecting that at all. There wasn't anything special about them. And so it was kind of like a letdown, like, is this it? That kind of threw me. And then the other thing that was different than I was expecting, which we learned on a couple of our tours, was they're kind of behind the rest of the country. They don't feel very modern. The whole state really, it feels like it's the 60s or the 50s or so. It feels behind the times. And it feels like dated, I guess is what it was. And not that they don't have modern things, but the one thing that like really struck us, because they talked about this, they don't have chain stuff. Like Juneau had a McDonald's, and they told us this story about when the McDonald's opened, they ran out of food like the first day because everybody came from miles around to go to the McDonald's because they don't have any there. And like the same thing happened when they opened a Walmart. And like there's very few of those things. So like they don't have all the stuff that we have. You're not going to find a Target anywhere. You're not going to find, I mean, like that Walmart, like looks like the only Walmart, anywhere. And so it just felt kind of like how my own hometown felt when I was a little kid in like the early 70s or something. Like it just felt really behind the times and kind of dated. And I know the infrastructure is kind of a big deal in Alaska, like there's so many islands and roads, and like they have the Alaska State Ferry system and stuff. It's just it's different than pretty much anywhere else in the United States that you're going to go. So it was different. And we all kind of said, I don't think we'd want to live there. One of the things that we knew about, so this wasn't something we didn't expect, but that we agreed, we didn't like all the rain. It is a temperate rainforest, at least in the part that we were, and we all agreed we wouldn't want to live somewhere where it rained that much. It was just wet all the time. So, that we knew about ahead of time, but it was definitely something we didn't like. Number 5. This is an interesting one. Do you prefer cruises to warmer tropical climates over Alaska, and why? Okay, now I'm not going to just keep this to Alaska. I would say, let's put it this way. Do I prefer cruises to warmer tropical climates, or do I prefer cruises to cooler climates? Okay, because there's a lot of places you can cruise that would be considered cooler. All of Northern Europe, which is someplace I very, very much want to cruise to. The British Isles, Iceland, Greenland. If you flip to the other side of the globe, there's times of the year where you're going to have cruises to Antarctica, South America. Even depending on the time of year you go, Australia and New Zealand could be cooler. You know, they can be hot or they can be cool depending on what season you go in. So people have it in their heads. I think this is a very common misperception about cruising. When people think of cruising, they automatically, and even my son Andrew did this, they automatically think cruising is only sunny and warm and tropical. And that is not true at all. Okay. The globe is huge, and there's a wide variety of cruises that go to all different places on the globe and all different countries in all different kinds of weather and all different kinds of climate. Of the last 5 cruises we've taken, 3 of them were cold. You know, we had to have long sleeves and jackets and hats, and, you know, it was really chilly. And I actually prefer that. I hate being hot. I do not like being hot. Look at me. Okay. I am an extremely fair skin. Look at me and Ben. We are the palest people on the planet. Okay. We are extremely fair skinned. We are fair haired. I'm obviously, my heritage is Irish, English, and Norwegian. I am from the northern climes, okay? We have very light blue eyes. We were not bred, if you will, for hot climates. I can't tolerate it. I sweat terribly. I mean, like, if you see me when I'm in the tropics, I look like I'm gonna die, okay? My body just does not handle hot weather well. I mean, it's summer right now. We don't go outside. We just don't. We stay in our air-conditioned house, and we walk to our air-conditioned car, and then we walk into the air-conditioned movie theater. That's like, you know, we do not like being hot. The one thing I will say that I do like a tropical climate cruise. So, I mean, you're talking the Bahamas, the Caribbean, or Mexico at certain times, you know, stuff like that. The Mediterranean would be another example. Those are going to be your main hot weather cruise destinations. Honestly, there's actually a lot more places you can go on cruises to that are on the cooler weather side than are on the hot weather side. The more popular ones tend to be the hot weather ones, Mediterranean, Caribbean. But, you know, I mean, there's cruises to Japan. There's cruises, you know, there's cruises all over the place that go to places that aren't going to be hot or tropical. And the one time I appreciate going on a cruise to a warmer tropical climate is when it's winter here. We have very harsh winters in Wisconsin. We get a lot of snow, and it's very, very, very cold here. I was very surprised to learn that the part of Alaska we went to on our cruise does not get anywhere near the amount of snow and does not get anywhere near as cold as it is in Wisconsin. So I was like, oh, we wouldn't have any problem living there because it's mild compared to where we live in the winter. So when it's January and there's 15 feet of snow outside, it's 45 below, it's nice to get to fly to Florida and get on a cruise ship and go to the Caribbean, okay? That's nice. But when it's hot there, like we have taken hot weather summer cruises. When we went on Mariner of the Seas in August in the Bahamas, we went on Harmony of the Seas in May, June in Eastern Caribbean. It was ungodly hot. I mean, it's so hot you can't stand it. I don't like that. So, I mean, cruise ships themselves are air conditioned, so I can tolerate it fine. But it's not like I want to be outside doing stuff or taking shore excursions or anything. So I really prefer the cooler weather stuff. Because for me, one of the advantages of a cruise ship is that you get to unpack once, your room, your hotel, if you will, travels with you. And some of the places I'm interested in visiting on a cruise are like Northern Europe. Like I said, I would really like to go to Northern Europe because I can go to a lot of different cities in Europe and have the comfort of going back to my cruise ship every night where my stuff is and where I know I'm going to be fed and I have my room and it's all taken care of for me, and I can go out each day and explore. So I'm more interested in an experience like that where it's not so much I'm going to be uncomfortable and miserable because they get so hot all the time during the day. And I've talked about this before. We're really not beach people. So we're more interested in like history and culture and entertainment and things like that. And, you know, we're not ever going to be laying out in the sun. So long answer to an easy question, but I actually prefer the cooler weather stuff. Number 6, do you prefer cruises to land-based travel and why? That's a tough one. In some ways, yes. And the reason I say yes is because it's a very good value for money. You're getting your accommodations, all your food, all your entertainment, and travel from place to place in one price. And if you break down how much those things would cost individually for a land-based vacation, like how much would you spend for hotel and how much would you spend for food? How much would you spend to go to the number of shows you can go on a cruise or play all these games and all these activities and stuff like that? It's going to end up costing a lot more for a land vacation than it is for a cruise vacation. And like I said in the previous question, I also really like the convenience of, like, if you will, your hotel travels with you and you can go out during the day and explore and experience places, but then you have the comfort of the same room, the same service staff, your same wait staff at dinner. You know you've got a variety of restaurants. Everything's already paid for. So that can be really comforting, especially like after we traveled through Europe last year. Having to travel from place to place, especially when you're crossing borders, going from having to switch languages, different currency. Land-based vacations, depending on what they are, can be quite complicated. They can be really complicated and they can be really exhausting. So depending on how you're traveling. Now, there's different types of land-based vacations though. There's the kind where you're traveling around a lot, but then you also might go to like a resort and you just stay there the whole time and it's super relaxing. So it really depends. One other thing that's a big plus for cruising to me is I absolutely love the ocean. And there's a big difference between standing on a beach and looking at the ocean, which is nice, and being out on the ocean. Cruising is really, you know, otherwise, unless you charter a sailboat or something, that's really like kind of the only way that you can do that, is you've got to be on a cruise ship. To have that experience of being out at sea with nothing around you but water, and you can't see land at all. I love that. Megan loves that. We love the ocean breeze and the movement of the ship and all of that. I mean, I just absolutely love the experience of being out on the ocean. And so for that reason, I do prefer cruising over a land-based vacation. But we've taken some absolutely fabulous land-based vacations too and have really enjoyed ourselves. And so I do like both because, I mean, there's a lot of places you can't get to in the world on a cruise ship, you know, so the entire interior of the United States, for example. So you do have to be able to do both if you want to go all the places. But I like both, but there's some real advantages to cruising for me. Number 7, what places have you never been that you would most like to travel to in the future? Okay, my list is ever changing and gets longer all the time. It's not like, you know, I had this list and I gradually cross places off and then it gets shorter. No, every time I cross something off, I add 5 more things. So I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. I have been a lot of places. I've been to every state except for Hawaii, most of them multiple times. I've been to, what did I count? Andrew and I were counting, I think I've been to 14, 15 countries. I've been a lot of places. There's still so many places. The world is huge. There's still so many places I want to see and go. I mean, there's even places in the United States I haven't been to yet that I'd really like to go to, or that I'd like to take my kids to that they haven't been to yet. But for me, some of the ones that really stand out for me, I'd really like to go to Iceland. I'd really like to go to Scandinavia, the Scandinavian countries. So Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland. I would really like to go back to England. I love London. We didn't have the best experience in London when we went last summer because it was so dang hot and it really kind of wore us down. I would love to take Megan back to London and just do a bunch of theater. I want to go to Scotland. I've never been to Scotland. There's places in Ireland I want to go to that I didn't get to see when I was there before. and I've been there twice before, so I mean, there's some places in France that I haven't been to yet that I'd really like to go to. I would like to go to more of Switzerland, back to Austria. I'd like to go to the Czech Republic. I'd like to do a European river cruise, on the Rhine or the Danube, see all the castles and everything. Pretty Europe heavy, I would say. I would like to go to Japan. There's some really interesting things about Japan that I'd like to see. I'd like to go to Tokyo Disney. Megan very much wants to go to Japan, so that is pretty high on our list. She studies Japanese. Other than that, in Asia, there's not a lot that really interests me in Asia. It's just a personal preference thing. I am interested in going to Singapore sometime, maybe.
I want to go to South Korea.
South Korea? Megan wants to go to South Korea. Yeah, Korea would be interesting. She's done a little bit of Korean too, so. And I'm not sure if there's anything really in Africa that I really want to see that badly. Andrew's been to Africa, and he said it was a good experience. He's glad he got to go, but he says he really doesn't feel the need to go back. And South America, I'd like to go to Patagonia, the mountainous regions of like Western Argentina and Chile. Yeah, just little places here and there maybe in the rest of the world. Australia and New Zealand, it's so far. I mean, it's so far and it would cost so much money. It's not high on my list. I mean, like if I ever got the chance to go to any other continent, South America, Asia, Africa, or Australia, heck yeah, I'll go. But it's not as high a priority to me as some other places, mostly in Europe. So there you go. Okay. Number 8. Should we bring our own throw blankets to Alaska? Good question. If you're going on Holland, America, no, because they provide them for you. We had really nice blankets in our room that we could use, and there were really nice blankets available all the time on the promenade deck. And I show that in the videos. So if you're going on a premium cruise line or a luxury cruise line to Alaska, I do not think you need to bring a blanket because they provide them for you. So I would assume that would be the same thing. Somebody let me know in the comments if this is true. On Cunard, Princess probably, or any other, premium or luxury line, they probably have blankets on board for you. And even if you're going on a more mainstream cruise line like Carnival or Royal Caribbean, I really don't think it's that necessary. We went very early in the season when it was still quite cold and there was a lot of snow and ice. And, we were wearing puffer jackets, lightweight but warm, hats and gloves. But we only, I think one time, Megan and I sat together on the promenade deck and covered our legs up with a blanket for 10 minutes. Other than that, we really didn't need them. But we're cold weather people. Like I said, we're from Wisconsin and we are used to being dressed appropriately for cold weather. So we didn't find it necessary to use the blankets. I think the only reason you would need the blanket is if it was the very beginning or very end of the season and you're going to be sitting still out on deck or your balcony for an extended period of time.
There were a few times that Andrew and I would sit out on the deck and read.
And you use the blankets. Okay, good. So that's what I mean. So like Megan, if you caught that, she said there were a few times where she and Andrew sat out on the deck and read a book and they used the blankets then. So if you're going to be out on deck early or late in the Alaskan season and you're going to be still, reading a book or looking at the scenery or something, then you might want one. But if you're on one of those premium or luxury lines, you don't need to bring one because the cruise line's going to provide them for you. Okay, number 9. How to get good prices on airfare. Oh boy. Okay, I have bad news for you. The cost of airfare kind of is what it is. There's all these myths and rumors and stuff out there about how to get good prices on airfare, and for the most part, none of those are really true. Airfare changes constantly. The price of airfare goes up and down literally every day, sometimes multiple times a day, from when the flight is first posted for sale until the minute it leaves. It changes constantly. Okay, there's different tools you can use to help you price out airfare and see, where it's at. Google Flights is a good one. Look at the calendar view on Google Flights. I use Kayak sometimes just to get a general idea of what the prices are at. And because Kayak also provides a predictor thing, like a little thing, it'll say buy now or wait based on trends with the pricing. Here's the thing with airfare. It does not matter what day of the week you buy it. It doesn't, like I have to buy the ticket on a Tuesday. No, that's not a thing, okay? This is when you should buy the airfare. Buy the airfare as soon as you see a price that you are comfortable paying, okay? So if you're comfortable paying $350 a ticket for this flight, just get it, okay? Don't stress about it. You could literally be checking up and down every day. I mean, I do. I check every day for a while. And when it gets to a price that I'm like, I can afford that, I'm okay paying that, I just buy them. You're risking it could go back up. Most times when the closer it gets, the airfare is going to go back up. So it goes up and down. When you see a price that you're comfortable paying, just get it. That's my advice to you. And the other thing that I say that will help, okay, is you need to be flexible on your dates. Because flying on a certain day of the week or on certain dates in the year will be significantly less expensive than flying on other days of the week or other times of the year. So if you can be flexible on your dates, you're going to see a difference in price. But even that sometimes isn't really worth changing it. Like, for example, if this plane ticket that I am looking at is $25 cheaper per ticket, if I go on Tuesday instead of Friday, well, I'm saving $75, but now I got to pay 3 extra days of hotel room, which is going to cost a lot more than the price I saved on the ticket. You see what I mean? So you got to factor that in. If we go this day instead of this day, it's going to be $150 cheaper. Yeah, but now you got to pay 2 nights of hotel and that's $300 or something, So it might not matter. It might not be a big enough difference to make a big deal, but like time of year can really make a big difference. So that's probably the biggest factor. If you can be flexible in the time of year that you go and go at a less popular time, you're always going to see flights are going to be more expensive at the peak times for that destination. The other thing that is worth checking is flying to different airports. But again, you gotta price it out. Like when I had trouble in March for our spring break trip, we were trying to fly from Minneapolis to New Orleans. And the prices of the airfare were just obnoxious. It was like $1,500 a ticket. And I finally figured out, I tried all nearby. I tried Houston. I tried here, there, all over the place, Baton Rouge and all this. I flew to Memphis. And I was able to figure it out because, again, you got to factor in the other stuff. I saved, I think it was like $1,800 total by flying to Memphis, renting a car, and driving from Memphis to New Orleans. But you had to factor that in. Okay, now I got to pay for this car. Is it still going to be cheaper? And it was. So that one made sense. So you got to factor those things in. The other thing I would always advise people, do your search on a search site, Kayak, Google Flights, whatever, but book directly with the airline. Do not book plane tickets on Kayak. Do not book plane tickets on Expedia. Do not book plane tickets with a travel website like that. You can let your travel agent book them, that's fine. But book directly with the airline, because if something goes wrong with your flight, which happens all the time, okay, delays, cancellations, whatever, you are not going to have anybody to help you if you booked through Expedia or Travelocity or whatever. Book your flights directly with the airline. You're always going to get the same price anyway. You're not going to get any better price. What you see on Expedia or Travelocity or Kayak or whatever, that's the same price it's going to be if you go straight to delta.com or aa.com or whatever. It's going to be the same. You're not saving any money by buying it from there. It's just a good place to look to search because you can compare things and stuff like that. But when you actually go to buy your tickets, buy them directly from the airline because you want to be working directly with the airline if you have to make any changes. Along with that, download the airline's app. Make sure you have the airline that you're flying with's app on your phone because if anything happens with your flight, if you have to make a change, if it gets delayed, if it gets canceled, you need that app. You need to be getting the notifications that they send. And you can make changes so much quicker on the airline's app than if you go wait in a line or call. So make sure you have the app for your airline. The only other thing I would say is be open to 2 one-ways on 2 different airlines even can sometimes, not always, be cheaper than a round trip. It's worth looking into. I mean, 99% of the time I'm always buying round trip tickets. But once in a while, or if you're doing an open jaw, you're flying multiple cities or something, you might end up using different airlines for each leg just because that's the cheapest one. And sometimes that can be cheaper. So keep your options open, I guess. And then I'm going to give you a caution here. It's been in the news a lot lately. Please do not skip leg. Not only do the airlines not like skip legging, if you don't know what skip legging is. Okay, say I'm flying from Los Angeles to New York and it has it changes, you change planes in Chicago, or there's a stop in Chicago or something, okay? I actually want to go to Chicago, but the flight from Los Angeles to New York is cheaper than the flight from Los Angeles to Chicago. So I buy the ticket from Los Angeles to New York, but then I get off the plane in Chicago and I don't use the other leg. That's skip legging. Airlines do not like it. You can get banned from the airline for life. Don't do it. Okay? The other reason I tell you don't do that is because you just took a seat that somebody else could have had from Chicago to New York that's not available now. That's mean. Don't do that. Because now you just took away a seat that could have been available for somebody that now is just going to sit there empty flying to New York. That's why the airlines don't like it, and that's why I think it's a crappy thing to do. So please don't skip leg to save money. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting banned from the airline, and it's not worth being a jerk. So there you go. But otherwise, my basic advice with airfare, set yourself kind of a time window. Okay, we're leaving here, and I can start looking here. We have the money here to buy the airplane tickets. Check every day. When you get to a price that you feel comfortable with, that you're like okay with paying, just buy them. It's not really worth driving yourself crazy beyond that. Okay. Number 10 and final question. Do I buy travel insurance, and what do I recommend for travel insurance? Very good question. Now, during the pandemic, I had different advice than I do now. So for a general time in travel, this is what I advise. First, I'll tell you what we have. In the past, when we weren't traveling as much, I bought travel insurance for each individual trip. But now we have an annual travel insurance policy that covers my entire family, my entire household. Sorry, it covers me, Ben, and Megan because we're in this household. It does not cover Andrew because he lives on his own. Okay, it covers COVID and it covers cruising. It's very important that you buy a travel insurance policy that covers what you need it for. So make sure you look at it and that it covers what you need it to have. Okay, because there's a lot of variation in travel insurance. We have an annual policy for our household through Alliance that covers all those things. It's $485 a year. It's a real bargain, and it renews on July 1st. So I just renewed it on July, right at the end of June. And so now we have it for a whole nother year. So it covers everything: medical, delays, lost luggage, illness, medical evac, all that stuff. So we have all of that in this really good plan from Alliance. An annual travel insurance policy is the best way to go if you're someone who travels frequently. If you travel at least 3 times a year, I would suggest you get an annual travel insurance policy because you're probably going to be saving money. If you only travel once or twice a year, then it's probably easier and less expensive to just buy an individual travel insurance policy independently. Now, what do I mean by that? Do not buy the travel protection from cruise lines or from airlines. There will be an extra little step when you're buying plane tickets or an extra little step when you're buying a cruise, asking you if you want their travel protection or their cancellation coverage or something like that. That's totally not good coverage, and it's expensive for what it is, and it really half the time it only gives you back like a percentage of what you paid, and it doesn't cover very many situations, I would always deny that. Don't get it. Don't get the travel protection from the airline. Don't get it from the cruise line. Now, during COVID, I gave different advice because that was a different situation with cruises. But now I always say, just say no. Okay. And then as soon as you booked your trip, especially if someone in your family has a pre-existing condition, go to insuremytrip.com and put in the parameters of your trip. It'll ask you, where are you going? Who's going? How old are they? Stuff like that. It'll ask you a few questions, and then it'll show you a whole list of policies that are available to you, and you can compare them by what they offer and by price. And it's all on one page, and you can shop very easily. That's going to be cheaper and better coverage than anything that is offered through the cruise line or the airline. Okay? But if you have a person with a pre-existing medical condition that you're concerned that they might need some kind of medical care if something went wrong with them or something, you have to book that within like 14 days of booking your trip. So whatever the first thing you book for your trip, if you bought plane tickets or if you booked a cruise or whatever the first thing you booked in, within 2 weeks of that, you need to buy your travel insurance, because otherwise it won't cover the pre-existing condition. If you don't have anybody with a pre-existing condition, you don't need to worry about it. You could buy the travel insurance right up until the day before you go on your trip. That's fine. But if you have somebody with a pre-existing condition, like I do, I have a heart condition. You know, when we would book individually before I started getting the annual travel insurance policy, I always made sure I'd do it the same day. Oh, I just booked my cruise, or I just bought my plane tickets. Now I'll go over to insuremytrip.com and I buy my travel insurance. Same day. So that's what I advise to you. If you are taking a trip that you can easily like swallow the cost if something goes wrong, you know, it's a domestic trip, you're driving 3 states away or something like that, and it's not the end of the world if you had to go home early or, something like that, you may not need travel insurance. I mean, you really have to price it out for yourself, but like last summer when we went to Europe for 24 days or whatever it was, and we were going to multiple countries and extremely expensive airplane tickets and stuff like that, heck yeah, I want that insured, because if anything goes wrong or anything happened to us, I definitely wanted that covered. And so if it's something big like that, where it would be a huge loss to you financially, or you have someone like, it made me a little nervous because my dad never did buy travel insurance for our cruise to Alaska. And I kept asking him about it, and he kept saying he was going to do it, and he never did. Now, nothing went wrong, but I did worry a little bit because of his age and his health condition. He's a pacemaker and things like that. If something had happened to him and he had to be medically evacuated, I wouldn't have been able to help him. I wouldn't have had the money to help him with that. And he could very easily get stranded someplace in Canada or something and not have the funds or the resources to get home or get the medical care that he needed. And that happens to people all the time. And it can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And so if you're in a situation like that where you have somebody with, questionable health, or, they're older or something like that, you really want to very strongly considering, like, even if you only buy the travel insurance for that person, what's the worst case scenario here? And, can we afford that if it happens? And if you can't, then make sure you get the travel insurance, because the travel insurance is always going to be less expensive than the worst case scenario will. So I hope that helps. There's a lot of different good travel insurance companies out there. We do buy an annual travel insurance policy, and I foresee that I'll probably do that for the rest of my life. Fingers crossed that I get to travel as much as I want to. So, okay, I hope that you found this video interesting and informative and helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you have other travel questions, if you put them in the comments on a specific video, I always answer people's questions in the comments on my videos. If you ever have a more general travel question like this that you want me to answer, and one place that's a good place to leave those, if you ever have something like that, it doesn't necessarily go with a specific video, is on the community tab on my YouTube channel. The community tab is where I post like little messages and polls and things like that. And you can also post stuff. You can post stuff there, my viewers. You can put questions there or comments or whatever if they don't go like with a specific video that you want to leave the comment under the video. So if you ever have a question like that, feel free to do that and I'd be happy to answer those too. And if you don't want to miss any of my upcoming content, please be sure that you're subscribed to the channel and ring the notification bell. And again, remember, subscribing is free. It does not cost you anything. All it does is let YouTube know that you like this channel, you like these videos, and you want to make sure that you see them on your home page or get a little blue dot next to the channel name in your subscription feed. That's all it does. So it just lets you know when I have a new video out. It does not cost you anything. Subscribing is free. So please subscribe if you haven't already. I hope this video was helpful. Have a great day, everyone, and safe travels.